The Trippsix Motorsport Touring Car Championship continues tonight as the journey around the world never stops. After the chaos of Portimao, we take to Portugal's next door neighbour of Spain for Motorland, Aragon. Twisty, fast, and the top class field of race room's best. It's an evening to remember. My name, of course, is Zach Sweeney. I'm here to talk you through all of tonight's action. Two races coming up, of course, rounds 7 and 8 of the Super Touring Championship. I, for one, really cannot wait. As I said, we take to Aragon. It's a circuit that has really seen a lot in terms of bikes, pretty much everything really that's come around Aragon. And I, for one, again, as I say, really cannot wait to see our season continue. Obviously, we're a couple of weeks behind because Racing has other ideas, but we're back and, well, we're doing everything we can to continue the season in full stride. And, yeah, very fun circuit. Have a look and obviously back to Portimao. It's a very interesting display. Let's put it that way. It was very chaotic. A lot of fantastic racing up and down the field. Some crucial ones for the championship as well. Speaking of the championship, let's take a quick look as to how things are racking up regarding that. After 6 rounds, of course, 6 races, 3 events spanning Silverstone, Zandvoort, and Portimao. Here are how the standings crop up after each of them. Maris Abdit, of course, 66 points is his margin, 16 points clear of the Dutchman of Luciano Vitbert. Shores Oysa in P3, Marko Misevic and Nenad Vladisevic, your top 5. Phil Lawson, Lloyd Bidoff just in behind that with Nikola Nasic and Christian Juhasz, your top 10. Beyond that, it's very close. Stu Neal matched on points, 23-22 behind Mihai Noj and Simon Trebek as well. Very incredibly close. All the way down to Piotr Klakczak, the last driver. 2 have scored points, only 3. And we all came around to race number 2 at Silverstone. 16 points is the gap between Zabdit and Vitbert. Not really much in it whatsoever. And I think it's really going to be a great championship fight all the way through, considering how incredible both of those drivers are. At the moment, we're just in our practice session. The drivers are warming up. We'll be going into qualifying in around about 5-ish minutes time. And yeah, talking about the championship, obviously, Maris Zabdit is leading the championship, obviously 66 points. He has finished off the podium once, and that was race number 2 at Silverstone. So far, obviously, I'm not quite updated in terms of Portimao, but it was first 7th, first 3rd for the first 4 races for Maris Zabdit. Himself, also boasted some pretty good results. Unfortunately, not necessarily as good. 3rd, 1st, 4th, and unfortunately 15th sees him drop just a little bit standing. Obviously, a bit of fluctuation here and there in terms of leading now. It was a very, very good event. Let's put it that way. It very much kept me on my toes, very much kept me entertained. It was very loud for the majority of it. For good reason, I think. People talk about how it should be loud and boisterous, but I had no help but to be. I had to bring the passion to the table. I had to bring the enthusiasm because there was nothing else that really did it justice. But anyway, thank you obviously for joining along. It's a pleasure to have you in the chat. Like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications. We're here every Sunday evening at 8 o'clock in the UK. Around about, actually, to be fair, it's not quite 8 o'clock. That's 10 to 8. Let's 10 to 8. You should be here in the YouTube chat ready to go. Very, very fun. I will mention before I have to forget, obviously, this is one touring car championship of many on the race. Very good fun. Love Race Room, and that's not just because they allow me to commentate for them. It's more just a case of there are other championships around. One of them is the TCSRL, the Touring Car Sim Racing League. They have got a new championship starting up this Wednesday. So in 3 days' time, on the like to take a look on Facebook. We don't quite have the relevant links, I don't think. But if you just type into Facebook, obviously Touring Car Sim Racing League, get yourself signed up. If it's something that appeases you, if you're free on a Wednesday evening, bada bing, bada boom, why not? You've got nothing else to be doing, so why not? Go for it. Enjoy yourself. Unfortunately, I won't be on commentary, which is what I'd love to be, because yeah, I love iRacing GT3s on a Wednesday evening. But taking a quick look at the practice standings at the moment, Luciano Vitvoet, Pascal Jean-Pietro, Lloyd Bidoff, Alan Axon, Shores Oyster, your top 5. They're only separated by just over half a second, which isn't a lot when you think about it and put it into perspective, particularly with Vitvoet versus Jean-Pietro in terms of that half a tenth of a second margin between a 2:13.8 and obviously what would be a 2:13.88 for the Swissman. Very, very close to it. Not quite able to see a lap time from our championship leader of Marius Stabdir. However, on Friday evening, Race Room posted the Dubai 2.4 hour using the new KTM GTX and obviously the entire fleet of GT4 machinery, including the brand new McLaren 570S. I will have the pleasure of commentating it alongside you and Illyria and Cameron Roger. Very, very good race. One that Marius Stabdir arguably should have won. I'll put it that way. He was leading for a good margin, didn't quite get pole position in his KTM, but was able to work his way forward, get into the lead, and was really running away with it. Unfortunately, a disconnect sort of around the 2/3 mark for I'm not entirely sure, but it wasn't Marius Stabdir, let's put it that way. Unfortunately, he was gutted. In terms of race room ranked events, obviously race room themselves host things throughout the year, the likes of the Daytona 2.4 hour, the Bathurst 2.4 hour, the Arch 2.4 hour, I think over the course of last year as well. We've also had the Daytona Oval event, which you see a lot of familiar faces with in here with Switch as well, I think, also in the Super mix. But a lot of them, and Marius Stabdir is always towards the front in a lot of them. Unfortunately, he's not been able to quite seal off the first victory yet, despite arguably very much deserving so. And Friday was his first opportunity to do so in quite some time. So he's going to be looking for redemption today. He's going to be looking to step up and find some way to actually take victory, because he's done it already a couple of times already this season, and we've not really been here for too long. So in touring cars, it's not a problem. Put him into some GT4 machinery, it turns into a bit more of an issue for the pole, but we digress. We're following on at the moment with Luciano Vitvoet as they all work their way around their opening lap in terms of qualifying. 12 minutes on the clock, of course, and running their way through into the downhill right left. Long sweeping left-hander that then just puts you onto a bit of a sweep. We then have a left, then a right, then a right, then a left, then a back straight, then a hairpin, and then a right left to round off the lap. I'll be entirely honest. Haven't ever commentated on Aragon before today, so if I am a bit rusty with where we are on the circuit, cut me some slack. I've done my best to look at the track, ride some onboards, but there's nothing really like learning a circuit other than driving it, and I unfortunately don't own a race, so I haven't really had the opportunity to get on and do it. Otherwise I would have, and obviously driving the track, watching onboards and things, it gives you a good idea, but you lose your attention, whatever. And you don't really get the best picture as to how a circuit goes. If you sit in the cockpit and drive it, you're forced to learn it, because you're having to go around the corners, you're having to learn the braking points, the turning points, when you get on the power, and you get a better idea as to where everything is. You can put a better picture, piece of better picture together. That's a bit of a mouthful. Piece of better picture. Because it's the p and b sound. Anyway, that's me rambling on. Because I'm by myself. I think I'm allowed to ramble on, don't you think? This is the hairpin at the back of that end straight. Then you go over the right, a bit of a kink before you end yourself at, well, I say start of that. We rise over the crest, similar, to be fair, quite similar to Portimao, where we were a week ago. Motorland Aragon, though, will ride on board with Luciano Vitvoet for his first lap. The Gator Chain Ballast Esports driver in towards turn number 1, this 90-degree left-hander that very much does lead itself very quickly into a flowing right. Should be some good side-by-side action there throughout the 2 20-minute races that we've got in store. Then you've got a flat-out right-hander, presumably, especially in these touring cars, and then obviously you run your way through, bring it back to the right-hand side of the circuit, flicking through this left, on the brakes for the uphill climb through the left, then once more flat out if you dare. I think pretty much you should be okay, even though you're sort of tight on the inside, you should still be able to take that flat out. Then once again through the kink, mind the sausage curve on the inside, of course, is Vitvoet goes purple of anyone. Should in theory be some of the most tricky corners on the circuit. This downhill plunge through the right, then the left, and it really is a very sudden dip, almost like a roller coaster. You will feel the cargo relatively light as you work your way through, because obviously the car's dipping down, is going with the gravity, so there's some science behind that. It's why on a swing set, at some point you're lighter, at some point you're heavier. I don't really understand it as much as I'd love to, because I love physics and I always love physics at school. And there we go. For whatever reason, the car goes like it should dip your way down here. Same reason as on a roller coaster, you get that feeling in your groin area and your stomach. Regardless of which, Luciano Vitford is still working his way through, and relatively cleanly, it must be said, on that Audi RS3. It's been a very, very good car to field so far this season, and that's exactly what Vitford has put to use. This long back straight, of course, is probably where we're going to see a decent chunk of overtaking before the car slams to the front for this chicane. Go Team Trippsix, there we go. Some Trippsix fans in the YouTube chat. I have a feeling we're on a different circuit to what I'm thinking of. I have a feeling we're on a different layout to what I've been thinking of. I think there is a chicane midway through the circuit. That's the left-right that we saw. It is. So halfway down the straight, there's a left, then a right, then a kink that brings you back onto the hairpin. So you still get the hairpin, and you still get this run here towards the back end of the straight. What's Luciano Vitford going to do in terms of setting the pace, though? He works his way across the line, and well, we'll see what time he can do and set onto the board. Was it a valid lap time? That is also something in of itself. Shaw's Oyster sets the benchmark. Marko Misevic also up there, 2 Alfa Romeos locking up the front 2 rows. 1.5 seconds between the pairs of them. And increasing that. Also, we got another car, that's Lloyd Biddulph, working his way up. Only 85 thousandths per second. Pascal Jean-Pietro also working his way into it. There's also Gygax people settling their way in. Alan Axe and Stu Neal. Masic as well, I believe, indeed. So getting some lap times in thick and fast. Unfortunately for Luciano Vitford, he didn't manage to get a clean lap in. He must have exceeded some track limits at some point. The racer was like, yeah, nah, mate, unfortunately for you, that is tough Tetris, unfortunately, and so you're going to have your lap time deleted. Here's Marius Abdir, though, the Absolute Motorsport racing team, who's on an absolute mission to prove himself. Again, Fabio Rebella, thank you for joining us in the YouTube chat, and obviously everyone else watching along. Don't hesitate to come and join us as well. We don't bite, we promise. Rich has told me otherwise. 6 minutes left to go. Abdir. He's powered into the first 2 sectors, and for those new, obviously, you've got, in terms of race room, you've got grey or white. It's one of the two, white or grey. And that means you're slower than your personal best. Green means that you're quicker than your personal best, but slower than the overall best of the session. And then purple means, hey, good job, mate. You've managed to go faster than anyone through that particular sector and string a good few of them together, and bada bing, bada boom, you might have yourself a decent pole time like the 2:14.1 that we see from Lloyd Biddulph at the moment. He's working his way to improve upon that. Halfway through the session, though, so the pressure is on to deliver. It seems to be quite easy to extend the track here as they work their way through the right then the left chicane. So obviously quite an extensive amount of runoff here at Aragon potentially. I mean, you can see it there. There's quite a bit to the right hand side running through into the hairpin at the end of the circuit. So you do have to watch out, obviously, for track limits. It doesn't take much to get that off track and to invalidate your lap. So obviously throughout the race, you're going to have to be careful of that. Flat out though to the line, it's green to the middle sector. He's at 29 thousandths of a second slower than the overall quickest. Luciano Vitford goes fastest, 2:13.8. Marius Abdir tops the tables, 0.3 of a second clearer than his championship rival Vitford. The 2:13.593 to set the benchmark. And well, 5 minutes left to go. It's going to be tough to match that. Lloyd Biddulph himself has boasted some decent stuff. He's going to be getting some cheers from Fabio in the YouTube chat for being a Trippsix Motorsport driver. What can he do? Half a second off pole position. Lloyd Biddulph did, I believe, set the first ever pole position time in terms of qualifying 2, I believe, at Silverstone, or qualifying 1. And obviously it was Marius Abdir that got the other. There was a bit of confusion. We had to run the entire qualifying session all over again. As Bernat Rubio as well. To be fair, the Spaniard as well, talking about Bernat Rubio, has really sort of ascended himself in terms of some form. He really got off to a shaky start at Silverstone. No points between either of the 2 races. And then his season started in Zandvoort, where he was able to get 2 points, I should say. And then 2 sets of 9 points through round 4 and 5. Round 6, he managed to get 20. I believe that was him getting 2nd place at Portimao. Or a victory, actually. Did he win? He might have won. Again, I'm not entirely sure as to how the point system works, so you'll have to forgive me. But I think he won, yeah, because it was Alan Axon and Simon Trebek in 2nd and 3rd, because it was quite an interesting result. So he's managed to catapult himself up to 10th place in the standings, and in all honesty, not too far away from what could potentially be ahead of Phil Lawson. He's only 6 points ahead. A further 10 beyond that is Vladisevic for P6. So plenty of opportunity still, and still a long way to go in terms of the championship. We're at our 4th event tonight, round 7 and 8, which is going to tick us off at the halfway point at the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. So this is probably one of the races that you are going to want to go into on a high. You know, regardless of how bad your first half of the season has been, start today, start afresh, go into the second half with a good mentality, and look beyond that, and try and boost your morale, and obviously then smash the last half of the season and see what you can do. If you're at championship contention already, no sweat, do your best, solidify where you can. Obviously, let's not forget there are over, I think I can literally bang on £300 worth of prize pool for the championship itself. 150, 100, and then a further 50 for first, second, and third respectively in the championship, and then a further £40 for those that complete more than 14 races this season. So 14 of the 16, you do the maths, that's 7 over 8, so a good 87.5%. Yeah, 87.5% of the races so far this season, or over the course of the whole season. So it's a tough ask, but name in the hat. If you complete 14 out of the 16 races, name in the hat, pull it out, boom, your name's called, you get 40 quid. And as I've said, it pays for the takeaway that night. It pays to, I don't know, buy your child a present, buy yourself a present. I don't know, whatever you want to do with £40, do whatever. Probably put it on electric and get 10 minutes of heating. I don't know. Whatever these guys want to do with it, we'll find out at the later course of the season when we've crowned our champion, and we'll get our lucky winner of £40. I say lucky, to be fair. They've had to do the hard work of finishing the races. Trippsix. You can see on the outside, MotoGP, I believe, come to Aragon, and on the outside there is the long lap. So obviously on a motorbike, rather than getting penalties, which they still do, but rather getting slow down penalties or whatever, they get told to take the long lap. It's similar to a joke lap in rallycross, if you will, where it's a longer alternate route around the circuit that costs you about 2 or 3, 4 or 5 seconds, depending on what the track allows. Obviously, that's not going to be in use today with the touring cars, but it would be interesting. Maybe some joke laps in the mix. Who knows? Would be an interesting dynamic, maybe to put some Grand Prix racing, whereby you have to take a joke lap at some point throughout the race. Marko Misevic, by the way, purple to the first sector, only 17 thousandths of a second slower to the middle. If he nails this final sector, could catapult himself very easily onto the second row. We'll find out. Obviously, this is how the grid order stacks up. It comes back at 20 seconds before the session finishes. Mario Stab did take to pole. Luciano Vitfoot will join him on the front row. 1.5 tenths back on the 2:13.531 set by the pole. Lloyd Bidoff, Pascal Jean-Pietre 3 and 4. They're your second row. Marko Misevic, Nikola Nasic keep each other company, the two countrymen on row 3. Victor Bernat Rubio P7 with Shaw's Oyster alongside him on row 4. Alan Axel and Vladisevic, your top 10. Stu Neal, Simon Tribeck, Michael Gygax and James Beckett. Beyond that to round off row 7. Benny Norton, your top 15. Polly Flack for the Norfolk races. Same too with Benny Norton and Polly Flack. Makes it an all Norfolk races, row 8. So hopefully they can get themselves up. We'll scroll through the rest of the grid order if and when we can. If anyone else has actually set a lap time. I don't actually think anyone was able to improve on those final runs. Marko Misevic then, the Sim Racing Motorsport team, rounds off P5. And with 1 minute 50 left to go before we're underway for 20 minutes of race 1 action. 2-minute warm up. These guys will be going very, very soon. I'm going to take a step away just to breathe and have a drink before the carnage unfolds. Do not go anywhere. The Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship will be back in about a minute. 20 seconds then on the countdown. And welcome in to all 12 people watching along from home. It's a pleasure to have you. My name is Zach Sweeney. This is the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship, round 7 and 8. Event number 4 takes to Motorland, Aragon here in Spain. The championship standings: Marius Abde, Luciano Vitfut, your top 2, Marko Misevic and Lloyd Biddulph 3 and 4, with Jules Oyser there in 5th. They are separated by less than 30 points between the, or just over 30 points I should say, between the 5 of them, with 96 going the way of Zabdir with a near perfect run in all fairness. 21, that's a victory at Silverstone, plus the fast lap. Falling back a little bit in Silverstone with 9 points, then another victory, another podium, another victory, and then another 9 points at the end of Portimao, race number 6. The formation takes place right now. The cars will get themselves onto the field. And the championship comes down to this: Zabdir on pole, Vitfut alongside. We've also got Marko Misevic, Lloyd Biddulph and Oyser, I think, all within the top 5 places as well, which would make for some brilliant racing, it must be said. Nikola Nasic, I think, is also up there in his Renault Megane RS. Plenty of racing action then, and plenty of championship implications. It's going to be one to watch for sure here on a Sunday evening. Don't forget, 2 races coming up. We've got the 20 minutes of race 1. We flip the top 10, and then we go again for race number 2. So we're waiting, obviously, for the cars to be gridded up. And in terms of predictions, I don't know. I think Zabdir is going to take this one, in all honesty. And we're getting ready. The 5 red lights are on. We'll soon find out. The Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship, race number 7 here in the Motorland Aragon. Marius Zabdir, Luciano Vitfut, the front row. Biddulph and Jean-Pierre just in behind. The 5 red lights are on, the green flag is waved, and we are underway. Already a drive-through penalty from Rich Wetherill just towards the back end of the field. A good start from the Audi RS3, though, could potentially give him the inside for the left-hander at turn number 1. Side-by-side go our 2 race leaders, side-by-side go our 2 championship protagonists. Marius Zabdir able to hold pole position as they run their way through the left and the right of turns 1 and 2. Luciano Vitfut, though, his pressure is going to be unrelenting over the course of the next 20 minutes. The top 4 as they are: Vitfut, Biddulph and Jean-Pierre, Marko Misevic, Nikola Nasic. The top 6 beyond that: Bernard Rubio able to get himself into contention as well, as the breakaway begins already. Some carnage in the background as Lovash and Schubeck start to fight, ducking and diving though. Luciano Vitfut looking to the inside now as they run their way into the right and left. Downhill, that run coming up just soon, but the inside line goes the way of the Dutchman, who works his way through. Now one of the trickiest corners on the circuit, as Marius Zabdir already launched the counter-attack inside line as he works his way through. Downhill braking, the sweeping, the nature of it gives the advantage back the way of Luciano Vitfut, who retains the race lead. And now the fight is on. Lloyd Biddulph into the mix as well. He's side by side with his fellow Alfa Romeo, and Marius Zabdir caught on the outside, forced to tuck into tow and down to 3rd place. A very chaotic start, but it continues now up the hill as they work their way in towards the next left-right. Marius Zabdir works his way back ahead of Lloyd Biddulph. Luciano leads from Zabdir, Biddulph, Jean-Pierre and Misevic from top 5. And that's how they round off the first half of lap number 1. An important lap 1, it must be said, from Luciano Vitfut. Marius Zabdir will be gutted to have lost that. His defending is one of the pride and joys. One of the best things you know about Zabdir is how well he can defend. And unfortunately, he's not quite gone his way today. Marko Misevic able to hold station in the opening moments of race number 1. Very late on the brakes into the midway chicane of the circuit, which obviously isn't great for him. It's at the back end of the Swiss Millers. A bit of a slowdown. Lloyd Biddulph going slow off the exit, maybe extended the track, and he's going to lose a ton of places. Back down to 6th, maybe 7th if Jules Oyser wants to get into the mix. He's going to send the move already on the Renault Megane. Misevic trying to get the up and under, trying to move himself onto the podium. They round off lap number 1 and a breakaway from the top 2 as Luciano Vitfut and Marius Zabdir, and now 1.7 seconds clear of Pascal Jean-Pierre because of that slowdown, hampering some momentum. Ducking and diving and defensive goes Luciano Vitfut just in front. No way through for Zabdir. Misevic no way through for him either in that fight for the podium, what is now a podium, because thanks to Lloyd Biddulph and some clumsy mistakes potentially. Top 2. Look how quick they are, look at how perfectly poised they are, and look at how hard they are going to work at this victory. Marius Zabdir obviously is 22 points clear of Luciano Vitfut coming into today, which is a decent chunk of points. But every little helps. Right now he'll get, if he gets the fast lap as well, he'll get 21 points as opposed to 17 going away from Marius Zabdir. So it's points here and there that begin to add up through the right and then the left. How hard hard are they going to fight, though, is the question, really. Because obviously these two are fighting against each other, but they do have to be wary of the threat of Jean-Pierre and Misevic and Bidov. If they fight too hard, they could find themselves out of contention of not only the victory but also the podium if things go drastically wrong. So maybe there needs to be some mutual respect between the pair of them, just to use their sheer pace and try and drive away. But if I was Marius Zabdir, I would not want to see my championship rival right in front of me and not be able to go for a move. So maybe the competitive nature of Zabdir is going to see him in front. Who knows? 16 minutes still left to go as we round off lap number 2 with the very stop-start chicane at the back end of the back straight. In reality, you really should straight line it as much as you can to limit the steering wheel. In behind, though, Jean-Pierre, Misevic, Bidov and Nasic, the rest of the top 6, and well, an entire train all the way down to Schubeck in P19, which Weatherall and Lovash. Weatherall obviously getting a penalty drive-through for the start. Lovash DNFing already there, side by side between Bernard Rubio and Stu Neal. Up onto 2 wheels goes the Spaniard. He's going to lose a ton of time. Side by side also a Luciano Vitford and Marius Zabdir towards the front of the field. They're separated now just by a 10th. And look at this carnage that's installed. You can see Neal. Oh, whoa! Bernard Rubio straight into the side, nearly trying to intentionally wreck him there. That is a no-go. Absolutely no-go. Vladisevic able to avoid it. Obviously not happy of being sent up onto 2 wheels was the Spaniard. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And the funny thing is it didn't work because Stu Neal is still facing the right way, and unfortunately for Bernard Rubio, who now takes the pit lane, it's not his day. Whether you're unhappy with the driver or not, there is absolutely no excuse for crashing into the driver. You let the stewards do that, you do it the right way. Really. No excuse for that. We saw it actually in an iRacing ranked event in Toronto, especially I should say, in terms of the Road America 500 as well, where Team PGZ drivers potentially crashed into another driver, and again it didn't work, but there was intent for an intentional wreck. It's not great. It's not like we'd like to see it really, but regardless, our attention focus is here once more as we're a bit for it, and Marius Zabdir still leads. Pascal Jean-Pierre though is clawing away at the gap bit by bit, and you can see now teetering on the edge of a second. The gap is about a second now to Marius Zabdir. So little by little, lap by lap, they are reeling the 2 leaders back into play. So the 2 leaders have got to be careful. It gets to a point where Zabdir's like, yeah, I don't want to be overtaken, so I've got to overtake. It's that sink or swim, that kill or be killed instinct as a racing driver. And for Marius Zabdir, he's going to be trying just exactly that. The Audi RS3 goes defensive into the final couple of corners and gives him a compromised line. Does the DHL sponsored livery through the final corner. Zabdir seems to have a good run in the slipstream now as well, forcing Vitvoet to go defensive. All this is doing is backing them up into the pack of wolves behind Jean-Pierre, Misevic and Bidov, but side by side, who's going to be braver on the brakes? It is going to be the pole of Zabdir. Bit of contact as they run their way through. Has he got the overlap going into turn number 2? Pushed all the way to the edge of the circuit, sends the move over the curb. Still side by side for the race lead between the pair of them. Now the next right-hander swings the advantage back the way of the pole, but Luciano Vitvoet there, pushed off the circuit nearly, given the space still as they work their way uphill through the left. Marius Zabdir discouraged. Now the next left-hander, which way is it going to go? He's going to try and go for the up and under, but all that gives him is the outside line for the next right, I should say. Uphill, then the right, that leads them into the next section of the circuit, looking for the outside, but leaving the inside wide open, 2 wide in the background, potentially even 3 wide between the Swissman, Misevic and Bidov, into the downhill right, left, and side by side, and that fighting for 4th as well. Inside line goes the way of one of the Alfa Romeos. It is, of course, Lloyd Bidov, who retains 4th place and runs his way now into contention. Luciano Vitvoet, a bold defence, a brave defence, but certainly a brilliant defence in holding off Marius Zabdir. Fantastic stuff, of course. Just over 12 minutes left to go of race number 1. Surely is going to be nothing short of fantastic. The left, sweeping right, anchors you all the way back round. Another right. right, then another left, so it's a chicane, then into a chicane, and into a bit of a straight, into, guess what, another chicane. So that's what we like to see. 14 people watching. Thank you, of course, to everyone watching along. My name is Zach Sweeney. This is the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. This is round number 7, race number 7 of event 4, of the season. We're here at event 4 here at Motorland Aragon. It's a pleasure to be bringing you along all of this action. We've got a 5-way fight at the moment, and the majority of them are in decent championship positions. Let's put it that way. Marius Abdi leads, Luciano Vitfurt second, Marko Misevic is third in the championship, as Lloyd Bidoff is fourth, just in behind Misevic, so there's some direct competition there. They're only separated by 4 points, 72 to 68. Luciano Vitfurt as well isn't a million miles away. He's only 2 points clear of Marko Misevic, so definitely going to be some shake-arounds after tonight, I'm sure. Once again, going defensive is Luciano Vitfurt. Once again, to the outside goes Marius Abdi. Not quite committed enough to sail his way all the way around the outside, unfortunately for him. He's trying his best, but Vitfurt seems to have an answer. He spent a lot of time, in all fairness, behind the rear end of Marius Abdi, so he knows how to defend. He's taken some notes, but again, Marius Abdi trying to find a way through all the way to the outer extremities of the circuit to just try and get the best run through as possible. Wide goes Pascal. That could invite Lloyd Bidoff to have a look to the outside as they run their way through the right-hander. Once again to the outside though goes Marius Abdi. He's going to try and look for the up and under to get his foot to the floor first. Gives him the inside line now as they run their way through the right-left sweeping downhill section. Has Marius Abdi got the advantage? Who's brave on the brakes, riding on board with the pole from the Absolute Racing team? He's ahead. He takes the left-hander, but sending the move to the inside. Luciano Vitfurt, it's two sended in deep, and now Marius Abdi, the up and under, he finds his way through and finds himself back into the race lead. He retakes the reins at the halfway point with 9 minutes and 50 seconds left to go, but continuing to go side by side, a drag race in towards the next sequence of corners. The advantage swings the way of Marius Abdi, who defends well, and now Luciano Vitfurt looking for each opportunity through. The double under, maybe, no. Zabdi covers it off and parks it on the inside, ready for the offence. But Luciano Vitfurt is brave on the brakes. He uses the sweeper to bring him back to the left-hand side, retakes the race lead, but once again goes in too deep. And Zabdi says thank you very much, gets his foot down and retakes the lead. But now once more, a bit of a straight before you get to a chicane, and Luciano is forced to defend from Pascal Jean-Pietro. The pack of wolves have arrived, and they're starting to feast. They're trying to munch away at the rear wing of the Audi. Pascal Jean-Pietro's got no way through as they work their way through the final chicane. In the left, obviously, a bit of a kink before you end up off the lap. Lloyd Bidoff trying, but again, no way through. And now it's all aboard the Polish Express. Zabdi having to defend from Vitfurt. It was fantastic racing between the pair of them. Great respect. Yeah, there we go. TC SRL admin enjoying the racing. Brilliant racing it is. And obviously, speaking of TCRL, the Touring Car Sim Racing League, they are starting their championship up Wednesday evening, this Wednesday, the 26th of April. So if you want to get involved, look them up on Facebook. Get yourself involved if that tickles your fancy. In the meantime, this is the Trippsix one. And this is some of Race Room's absolute best in terms of some of the top flight of racing talent. I mean, Marius Abdi and Luciano Vitfurt, they do their talking all by themselves. We've seen Pascal Jean-Pietro as well up into the mix a couple of times also. Lloyd Bidoff, I believe I've recognised pretty much with the majority of this grid at some point or other. You've seen on a Race Room broadcast. Obviously, this is Touring Cars. This is not sponsored by Race Room. If it was, we probably would have the servers up week in, week out. Unfortunately, we don't. We had to miss last week. We should already be moving on to the next round of the Red Bull Ring. In all fairness, if the season went exactly to plan, we should probably be even a round later than that in terms of being beyond the Red Bull Ring and in Imola. But again, as much as we'd love that, Racing has had other ideas, which is a shame because KW do a fantastic job of supplying servers and bringing the action. We've got Trippsix for that, so it's a game, but we'll forget about that. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Obviously, TCSRL, sister sounds, but thank you for making my job easy. And it has been incredible racing, brilliant stuff. We've still got 7 minutes left to go in race number 1. A penalty coming up to the right hand side. We've lost already Rich Wetherill, Nikola Nasic, Jules Oyster, Victor Bernard Rubio, and also Szawok Slovak as well. There we go, Lloyd Bidoff trying to move his way past the Swissman of Pascal Jean-Pietro, no way through, not quite got the overlap. As into the final hairpin once again. Is he going to look to the left? Indeed he is. Is he brave enough on the brakes to get the inside line? Yes, he is indeed. He gets given the space by the Swissman, who uses the outside nature to maybe give him the inside for the penultimate corner. Does exactly that. Retains ahead. Does Lloyd Biddulph. Pascal's attempts were not good enough to thwart the attack from the Trippsix Motorsport driver of Lloyd Biddulph, who, after a mistake early on, has been trying to claw his way back. But the red and white Alfa Romeo is looking very menacing in the rear view mirror. Might be putting up on some pressure. It is always menacing when you've got a driver right behind you and you've got to check the mirrors. Trust me, I started driving this week. It was my birthday on Wednesday, turned 17. Woohoo! And many a time I've had someone sat right up my gearbox. Oh, I say that, no, it's my gearbox. It's in front. Just right at my boot. And it's not fun. It is scary. Because you just don't know what you're doing. And that translates obviously from real world driving on a road into obviously the virtual racing world as well. More so potentially because, well, £300 here at stake. £40 technically. Lots of championships, lots of wins, and a lot of competition as well. So you've got to be on your A game, like his Mario Sabdir from pole. He lost the lead to Luciano Lipwit, has fought hard for it back, and now in the final quarter of the race, the final 5.5 minutes, he's got an 8/10 margin, a few car lengths back to the Dutchman of Luciano Lipwit. Now, in all fairness, might have to be looking backwards as opposed to forwards if he wants any chance of maybe sealing off the podium. Has he got the strength to pull back the time for the lead, is the question. Is Zabdir going to make a mistake? Are the fights in behind between Biddulph and John Pietri going to hamper their chances for moving their places up one more? All questions that will be answered in the coming moments. Obviously don't go anywhere after the end of this race. After the checkered flag falls, we'll be going to a short intermission, and then we'll be going back again. We reverse the top 10, we go again for race number 2. 20 more minutes put onto the clock. Some more brilliant racing yet to come. Potentially even more so. Are we going to get 6 car fights for the race lead, or also 5 car fights for the race lead, I should say, because Valisevic is a little bit back. Going slightly slower so we can enjoy it and savour it, because they're fantastic cars. Love the Golfs, and that's not just because I've got one. Boom. But Alan Axon as well behind that, P7. Simon Trebek, Phil Lawson, Stu Neal, the rest of the top 10. Bit by bit, I guess. Bit by bit? I don't know. Ignore me. That doesn't work. I'm thinking out loud. I'm trying to work it into it. Because he's got 2 one-syllables that end in T. That's sort of a bit sound. It doesn't work. So that's me being a commentator and trying to be very funny, which we never are. So just don't listen to us when we ramble like that. And when we try to do any maths as well, inside behind the scenes as to commentators. We have not got a Scooby in terms of maths. Basically what we're doing, we are unprofessional professionals, and we obviously try to keep it to as high standards as possible, and obviously we are professional and we're not silly most of the time. But there are some times where we are just like, yeah, we think that's going to happen, we think that might happen, or we say that's going to happen and it doesn't happen, or we say, yeah, this person is going to win the championship, and then they don't because our maths is wrong, or we've got the championship standards wrong, or we're looking at the wrong track map potentially, like I am, because we are numpties, and there's a reason why we are in commentary, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. Full stop. Bada bing, bada boom. Why we get anywhere than we are, I don't know. Just in behind as well, Lloyd Biddulph fighting still on the podium, and actually pulling away a little bit from the Swissman of Pascal Jean-Pietro, who's falling a little bit into the clutches. Marko Misevic, I think he's Serbian. I think we confirmed that all the way back in Silverstone. I haven't remembered, but yeah, Lloyd Biddulph all over the rear end. Coming on to could be the final lap. maybe. Luciano Vitve all the way to the left-hand side. Which way is Lloyd Bidoff going to go? He's ducking, he's diving, he's committed to the outside, he's brave on the brakes. Bit of a lock-up from the Audi RS3. The up and under potentially from Bidoff. Could see him up the outside through the sweeper. A poor run from the Audi, maybe. Could see him lose the place. Bit of contact as they work their way through now. Oh, contact! Luciano's been sent off. Lloyd Bidoff given absolutely no space whatsoever. Vitve tumbling down the order, now outside the podium, outside the top 5 as well. And I have to say, it's his fault. I hate to say it. It was a shame that it happened. He managed to get going again once more and still in P5, which is the sort of the best of the worst, but they didn't really give much margin from Lloyd Bidoff on the inside. It is going to mean that Marius Abdi is going to be able to hold on to take the victory here. Whether this is the last lap or not, I don't know. It will be quite close. 9. But it does mean that Luciano Vitve is going to lose both the place down to 3rd place in the championship, with Lloyd Bidoff catapulting himself ahead potentially if the difference is 6 points, which I think between 2nd and 5th it should be. At the very, very least, it will be closed up. And Lloyd Bidoff has been mightily quick as well. 40 seconds left on the clock. Close to 50 actually, it's a bit bad. 53 I think. Here's the time to cross the line. Obviously in race room it's not time plus a lap, it's time, and then that's the checker flag being waved. So 20 seconds left to go. I think it is going to be the final lap of the race by about 10 seconds or so. Marius Abdi then from pole, lost it, got it back, lost it again, got it back again, and hasn't looked back since. He's been dominant in his form today. He ticks off his 4th victory of the season. Race number 1 all the way back at Silverstone, race number 1 when we went to Zandvoort, and race number 1 when we went to Portimao. It's 100% race 1 victory then. All 4 of them go the way of Marius Abdi. A flash of the lights, bringing it down to the pit wall. Victorious in Motorland Aragon here in Spain. Lloyd Bidoff and Pascal Jean-Pietro round off the podium, with Marko Misevic and Luciano Vitve making up the back end of the top 5. Race number 1 is in the books, and Marius Abdi extends his championship lead furthermore over Lloyd Bidoff and Luciano Vitve. An important race, and Zabdi is taking this championship with both hands, and he's grabbing it by the throat, and he is shaking it very vigorously, because this is his championship. He is staking his claim, and he wants that £150 come the season ends, because trust me, so would I. And if I had the opportunity to, if I was quick enough, I'd be exactly in Marius Zabdi's position. Obviously it takes a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of practice, and quite frankly a lot of talent as well. Zabdi does the work, he's brought it through. We'll talk you through the race results as soon as we get them up on the screen. And speaking of, boom! It must be magic. I must be. Marius Abdi then takes the victory today. Lloyd Bidoff just in behind with the fast lap as well. Goes an extra point his way for the Brit. Pascal Jean-Pietro the podium. Marko Misevic and Luciano Vitve after a late incident with Lloyd Bidoff sees him only 5th. Nenad Vladisevic P6, Alan Axon, Simon Trippsix 2-0, and Phil Lawson your top 10. Then comes Benny Norton for Norfolk Races, all the way up there on the fringes of the top 10. So boom, because he's got an extra foot to use in order to press all the pedals at all the same times. Beckett, Butcher, Gygax and Schubeck your top 15, with Paddy Flack P16 a penalty for him a little bit earlier on for the Norfolk Races. And then our DNFs come in with Flack, Weatherill, Nasic, Oyster, Bernat Rubio, and obviously Lovash as well, very early on. What we are going to do is take a quick break before we get ourselves ready and racing for race number 2 in a very short moment's time. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. We're moments away from Event 4, Race 2. Race 8 in total over the course of the whole season. And I, for one, am really looking forward to it. Here we go, straight into the action. Phil Lawson, Stu Neal, your front row with Simon Trippsix and Alan Axon just in behind. 20 minutes back on the clock. 5 red lights are on, and we're about to get ourselves underway. Who's going to take victory then for race number 2? We'll soon find out. Underway and racing, and Phil Lawson gets a pretty good launch. However, Stu Neal potentially better. Simon Trippsix and his Renault Clio as well, just in behind. Quite able to, though. He's going to try and sweep his way around the outside at least for a second, brings it back on though, pushed all the way to the outer extremities of the circuit, fighting very hard with Stu Neal, who's done a bit already at the fourth place as well, trying to work his way through Marius Abdin, down a place through 11th, side by side though, loose on a bit, trying to make amends. He's to the inside of the Renault Megane RS, and back through as well. P3 for him, side by side, just in the background as well as Misevic and Axon try to dispute over 5th place. It goes the way of Axon for now, however that dispute is far from over, continuing to go side by side with a bit of door rubbing as well as they work their way up the hill, continuing to do so. Wide though, Phil Lawson, that's going to invite Stu Neal and Lucanovic through also. He's going to rejoin the circuit in P4, potentially even lower. Marko Misevic to the inside of the downhill sweepers of the right and left, and Marko Misevic is ahead. He's gotten the track away from him as well, and he's up to 4th place. Phil Lawson bottled this reverse grid pole position and has bottled the chance for victory, it has to be said. Vladisevic as well, working for 6th place. Marius Abdin has already made amends for it. He's up to 9th place in the early stages of race number 2. Lucanovic for it though, surely this is his race to lose. Then again, no disrespect to Stu Neal, obviously. But Lucanovic is very quick and he's driving with a passion. He's got to win this race if he wants any chance of recovering anything in terms of championship points today. Realistically, Marius Abdin isn't as strong in the reverse grid races. As once again going slowly, Stu Neal pulls over almost with a slowdown potentially. That relinquishes the lead to Lucanovic. However, Simon Trippsix is not waiting around at all. He's looking at this opportunity. He's looking hungry and he wants victory. Outside line, 3 wide as they go their way through the chicane, cutting it over. The gravel goes to the Renault Megane. 3 wide once again with Misevic and also Neal as well into the mix. This is allowing Bitcoin to get away, continuing to go 3 wide, barged off the circuit to the outer extremities of Stu Neal. He's having to tuck back in. He's side by side with the Renault Megane, 3 wide in the background, 4 wide in the background, all the way to the back end of the circuit with Norton, Beckett and Butcher fighting over last place and continuing to go side by side and fighting over 2nd place. Misevic up to 2nd, Luciano leads lap number 1, 17.5 minutes left to go of race number 2. It's Vitfrit, Misevic, Trippsix, Neal, Vladisevic, your top 5. Marius Abdin making the most of the early lap chaos. He's up to 6th place and is trying to continue that push. As I said, Marius Abdin not as religiously as good. And race number 2 is Simon Trippsix is stopping, he's slowing down, he's got to slow down. Is he going to be able to get back going again? Is that a hardware failure? Is that an engine? He's stopped, he's out of this race. Simon Trippsix, DNF, done, he did not finish. It's a shame to see, obviously, he was doing quite well and has boasted some good success already, I think. I think back to Silverstone when he took the reverse grid pole position and was able to hold on for the lead for quite some time. There's Marius Abdin ticking off yet another driver. At least trying to. Vladisevic just putting up some good fighting. Now inside line once again. However, Zabdir, he's been overtaken on the outside of these corners. Now he's going to be the overtakee inside line for the next part, and a bit of contact with Vladisevic running into the rear end of him. Simon Trippsix got a drive-through penalty for too many warnings. Okay, maybe he didn't set the slowdown quick enough or something like that, potentially, and decided to call it quits. Marius Abdin though up 4 places, and I was just talking 6 places up into 4th, I should say. Talking about how he's not as good in race number 2. He's got 9 points twice, which I think is around 6th or 7th. He's got 15 points once, which is 3rd place. So again, we'll wrap that. He's looking to match that and limit the damage relative to Vitbrit, who at the moment is leading fairly convincingly, it must be said. How long it's going to last for, I don't know, because Zabdir, when he's given some passion, he's going to go for it, like moves like that to the inside of Stu Neal, opens the door up though for the Serbian of Vladisevic and the Volkswagen Golf. Zabdir now with a compromised run, he's going to try and give this squeeze to Vladisevic. And now they round the final chicane. It'll be the inside line for the Alfa Romeo going into the final hairpin, late on the brakes, and it should be a fairly easy affair. Yeah, I thought he was going to get greedy and go for 2. Outside line for the Volkswagen Golf, though. It swings him the inside for the next right-hander. It's not really worked out before. Just very quickly, Zabdi gets the run through the flat up left-hander to round off the circuit. Vladisevic is getting a good run. He tucks back into situ and potentially might even go for the counter-attack. Zabdi, he's got to be bold, he's got to be brave, and he's got to try and send the move for the podium if he doesn't want to get overtaken. Inside line for Pascal Jean-Pietre versus Vladisevic, who stores his Volkswagen all the way around the outside of turn number 1 and gives Marius Zabdi the breathing room. Up 7 places now, it must be said, in the early stages of this race, and he's looking to make it 8, getting himself onto the podium. Because he won the first race, so he wants that 12th race with 12. No way, it's just the first grid of 11, which is silly. So I think it's just the first of 10. Massive slowdown penalty, well, give the drive through from serving it, unfortunately. Just decided to quit, which is fair enough. Back, especially in 20-minute races where they are short and sharp very quickly. So we were doing well, the pace was there, but all day, unfortunately. Lloyd bit off. Was his day yesterday in the first race. He was in second place, bit of contact with loose end of it, which might be disputed, it might not be. He's trying to work his way past Pascal Jean-Pietre and up into 6th place. The up and under for the right-hander gives him the inside for the next, but starts to back out of it and be a bit more sensible. Following this fight, Alan Axel also behind the Brit. The Swiss is behind the Serb. International is the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. We've got people from all over the world. Hungarian of Lovac, the Dutchman of Lisa, the Serbians, the Poles, the Spaniards of Grand Radio as well. They're a very diverse league, which is great to see. It shows the greatness of sim racing, how you can go anywhere, at any time, in anything, as Lloyd Bidoff doing his good old ducking and dives, trying to sell the Bidoff dummy. Attempting it. Way through for now. Final corner ticks off yet another lap. 13 minutes left to go. Approaching the halfway mark already. Lloyd Bidoff still unable to find a way through past Pascal, who himself is unable to find a way past Vladisevic, who himself is unable to find a way past Stu Neal. Up the road is Marius Zabdi trying to claw away at the gap of the top 2 in the race. Loose end of it, but Marius Zabdi is in 3rd, Marko Misevic in 2nd. Some high places in the championship, 3 of the top 4. We have Lloyd Bidoff the other, down in 7th place. He's trying to amend that and make it 6th. Next still moving large. There we go, trying to work his way past Vladisevic, and again through the downhill sweepers. It's been a bike as well, to be fair, to go around the world GP way. Not something I'd ever do because I'm not brave enough or more talented enough to do it, or rich enough to do it. It must be a very fun sensation, let's put it that way. Still this fight though, Stu Neal is holding on for 4th place and allowing Marius Zabdi to have the breathing room to do his thing. 2.6 seconds to Marko Misevic. Himself is 2 seconds off loose end of it, but Gogo Sharbox says Laszlo. I'll just leave it as Laszlo, I think. Or Laszlo. Pevar. But that's what we're going with. He is a good fan of Lovac, who at the moment, unfortunately, is last of the current runners. Didn't have a great race one, unfortunately. Well, definitely early on, but strong driver nonetheless. As it stands, is sat in P21 in the standings, however, bumped up to P17 after some mid-season retirement. Side by side though, Vladisevic and Stu Neal through the final couple of corners. The Alfa Romeo barged off a little bit, forced to concede. Vladisevic is able to stay in front as we approach the halfway mark of race number 2. Some movement as Neil tries to launch the counter-attack. He's late on the brakes into turn number 1. He's got the inside line, but Vladicevic takes the apex and is braver on the brakes. Sails his way around the outside and is able to solidify that second place in train. It's 2-0. Vladicevic is well defending. 10.5 minutes left to go then. We're approaching the halfway mark. 9 laps-ish is what we're going to get in terms of racing action, is what we got in race number 1, so presumably it's going to be the same story. You've got 4 cars, 9 astern, fighting for 4th place. Marius Sabdi versus Marko Misevic. That's also swapping and chopping and changing just in front. You can see the foreground of your shot now into the downhill right-left. Marius Sabdi up 9 places already ahead of the Serbian of Misevic. Stu Neal versus Lloyd Bidoff. They go side by side through the same set of sweepers. Lloyd Bidoff is ahead and up into the top 5 as it stands. He's still losing a couple of points relative to Luciano Vitford in terms of the overall evening, so he's going to want Vladicevic to improve that and to minimise the points deficit to his rival. Vladicevic, though, is mighty in his defence. He really does make that Volkswagen Golf all over. Obviously, Lloyd Bidoff has got to be careful of Stu Neal and Pascal Jean-Pierre just in behind, because they are looming threats, and one wrong move could see him back past both of them, and could see all that hard racketing he's been doing over the course of the last 11 minutes all undone at a moment's notice, and that is all it takes, is the snap of the fingers, a blink of an eye, and everything changes. But I must say, Marius Sabdi has done a fantastic job at recovering as well as he has up to 2nd place. 2.4 seconds is the gap, and Lloyd Bidoff, surely not from that far back. He tucks back in, trying to discourage his opponent. Side by side, though, in the background is the Swiss of Jean-Pierre looks to advance. Lifts the rear end up, though, just in front as Vladicevic goes in wide to the final hairpin. Is that going to give Lloyd Bidoff the knock-on effect of a better run and potentially the run in towards turn number 1? We are going to see that potentially as the Alfa Romeo pulls to the right-hand side of your shot, the left-hand side of the circuit. Inside line, he's got to be brave on the brakes, though, because Vladicevic is mighty through turn number 1. Outside line for the Serbian, sees him try to hang on in the balance. Lloyd Bidoff gives him the space on the outside. This is where it all went wrong from in race number 1 with Luciano Vitford, but outside line next through the next right-hand flick. Now the advantage is still switching back his way as the next left-hander goes the way of the Brit. However, Vladicevic is there. Contact, drifting their way through into the next left-hander. Vladicevic is sent wide. Bidoff promoted into 4th. Jean-Pierre back into the mix as Vladicevic is completely mugged. 3 wide, potentially in the background as well. As Jean-Pierre is trying to make it 2 in 2. Inside line potentially on Lloyd Bidoff. The answer to that is no. Vladicevic hangs on in the offence versus Stu Neal. And now, Pascal Jean-Pierre, is he brave enough into the next right-hander? No, he's not. There, Vladicevic, his anchor, has been dragged across back down to 6th place, and well, he's re-anchored and is trying to hang on to 6th place unless anything happens between Lloyd Bidoff and Pascal Jean-Pierre that brings him back into contention. We will wait and see. Portion of the race, the final 7 minutes. Luciano Vitford leads, Marius Sabdi, Marko Misevic, your podium. This fight here, Lloyd Bidoff, Pascal Jean-Pierre for the end of the top 5, Vladicevic, Stu Neal, and Axel Benny Norton inside the top 10 for Norfolk races. Up 3 places, so he's definitely having a good night here today. P11 in race 1, P9 now in race 2, and does look fairly secure in all fairness. He's got 10 seconds off the back of Alan Axel. He has got James Beckett, which is about 2 seconds back, so that threat is still there, but back to Victor Bernat Rubio, and a top 10 for the Norfolk races is definitely on the horizon. Their first of this season, of course, and actually I say that Benny Norton was able to get 8 points in round number 5. That was race number 1. Carrying the backs of all Norfolk onto their shoulders. Their biggest fan, me, obviously, because I'm from there. And I don't think anyone else really from Norfolk watches this other than me, so I'm just their sad, lonely little biggest fan. Also their least biggest fan, because I'm the only one, so I'm everything all in one. Regardless, Luciano Vitford commanding this race. We've not really seen much of him since the start, and that's probably the best thing for the Dutchman. Up 6 places, up 9 places for Marius Sabdi. Lloyd Bidoff through the left. Still under a bit of pressure obviously, the pressure is always unrelenting. That's exactly where you've got to be in a championship like this. You cannot let your opponent breathe, because the moment they get a sense of security, they run away with it. That's exactly what Zabdir did in race 1. As soon as Vitvoet backed off and had to defend for second, Zabdir was then off into the distance. Happened in the Dubai 2.4 hours, for those of you that managed to catch it as well. Zabdir, as soon as he got a moment to breathe, was able to use that security to build the gap bit by bit. As what Vitvoet has done as well, in the sense that he's just cruising out in front, trying to hit his marks, maintaining the pace as strong as he can, and move forward. So Luciano Vitvoet's doing a fantastic job. The gap is coming down though. It could be less than 2 seconds in not too long time. So the final quarter of this race, could we still see a fight for the lead? Don't hesitate, obviously, for those in YouTube chat, 14 of you watching, like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications as well. We're here every Sunday evening at about 10 to 8 BST in the evening. Also, for those of you that don't really have their Sundays free, check out the Touring Car Sim Racing League. Obviously, their new season is starting up on Wednesday this week, the 26th of April 2023. Get yourself on Facebook, type them in, Touring Car Sim Racing League, and sign yourself up if you're available. Or make sure you tune in to make sure you follow all of the action, because I'm sure it's going to be fantastic racing, as it always is when it comes to touring cars. My name, of course, is Zach Sweeney. It's been a pleasure to commentate for the entirety of the season up till now, and the entirety of the season to come. Thanks, obviously, to Rich for noticing me on Facebook and saying, oh, you know what, this guy's all right, so I'll get him in. It worked out well. A couple of hiccups, obviously, but we've been there. Absolutely, no problem. And for those obviously watching after the fact who can't see the live chat, I was just replying to TCSR. Is chilling in the YouTube chat at the moment, eyeing up, taking some notes maybe for what they should expect on Wednesday evening. 3 and a bit minutes left to go. Marius Zabdir, the gap is less than 2 seconds and coming down. Could Luciano start to feel the pressure a little bit? Could it be a last lap fight between the two championship leaders? Who knows? Boy Biddulph in the mix also. He's got the Swissman of Jean-Pietro for company as well, as he has done for the entirety of the race. Has Biddulph got enough to close the gap to Misevic? That is a question that is around about 1.6 seconds in length. That's the margin. Is the margin there? They have looked quite strong, in all fairness, and that is why it's quite a strongly Alfa Romeo focused grid. I don't think the Alfa Romeo actually had any balance of performance adjustments to it. Obviously, we've got no one in the Seat Cupra because it was bopped quite heavily, because it is a very fast car. So everyone going for something a bit different. And I don't actually think the Alfa Romeo was bopped in terms of weight increase and power reduction to make the car heavier and to lower the power of it. To slow it down, to make it a bit more even for everyone. Now on the penultimate lap, so coming into the final lap in just a few moments' time. 2.5 minutes left to go, not long left to go at all. 1.6 seconds plus the overtake as well, let's not forget, is going to be a mammoth task for Marius Zabdir. And again, he's got 4.4 seconds back to Marko Misevic, so maybe the risk is worth it. Maybe just push that a little bit harder in the final few moments to see what he can get. It's better than nothing. Second place, maybe even the fast lap just for that extra point. As a championship leader, you take all the points that you can possibly get. 2 minutes left to go. Final lap, race number 2, race 8 of the entire season so far. Motorland Aragon, Luciano Vitvoet, Marius Zabdir, down each other's throats for the majority of the season so far. Today has been no different between the Dutchman and the Pole. Turn number 1 for the final time for Pascal Jean-Pietro and for everyone involved. Vladisevic is running out of opportunities to find himself back inside the top 5. No real action at the moment. No one else really close enough to spring some moves, spring some last lap lunges. Vladisevic, you can see there in his Golf. Same for Vladisevic, so unfortunately not gone backwards. That's really a bang average race. Benny Norton up 3, Duke Beckett up 3, Lovash I think up 9 as well. Well, it kind of been up 9, 'cause there's only 6 people. Up 5 maybe from the back of the field, which it would have been actually, yeah, in all fairness, not much. So good races for a lot of people. Some big losers, the likes of Bernard Rubio, Butcher, Lawson, Oyster and Trebek. I think all have had a double DNF, if I'm not mistaken. The final 40 seconds of the race. And Luciano Vitford, I think, is going to hang on in the balance to take victory here today for the Audi RS3, his second of the season. Let's not forget, all the way back at race number 2 at Silverstone, he took the fastest lap for good measure as well. We'll find out if he's done exactly that today, but he started quite high up the mid-range of the reverse grid thanks to a late incident in race 1. Silver linings for him though, because in a few short moments time, in 3 corners time, he's going to crown himself a 2-time winner in the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Marius Sabdir, special mention for him as well, because he's been up 9 places. He has had it rough today, and he's really had to fight his way all the way back up into second place to limit the damage as much as possible and to tick off yet another podium. But through the final corner for the Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman of Luciano Vitford, who will flash his lights and see the checkered flag first for race number 2, the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Race 2 of event 4 goes the way of Luciano Vitford. Marius Sabdir comes home in P2. Marko Misevic will round off the podium. Lloyd Bidoff and Pascal Jean-Pietri, your top 5 beyond that. And we'll talk you through the full race results in a few moments' time, as soon as everyone's crossed the line and, well, we can round off for the evening. It's gone very, very quickly. The 2 races, 2 20-minute races, of course. It's been enthralling from start to finish. Of course, it is a bit of a struggle by myself in the commentary booth week in, week out, but I manage. I try to earn my keep and try to deliver as entertaining as of a show as possible, because you guys deserve it. And here we go, the race results. Luciano Vitford victorious, Marius Sabdir second place and the fastest lap, a 2:13.691 for the pole. Marko Misevic rounds off the podium with Lloyd Bidoff and Pascal Jean-Pietri, your top 5. Then comes Nenad Vladicevic, stagnant in terms of his progress. Worked his way up to 4th, back down to 6th. Alan Axon in behind, Stu Neal, Benny Norton for Norfolk Races in P9. James Beckett, your top 10. Then comes Lovash, P11. Victor Bernard Rubio, the first of an extensive list of DNFs. Butcher, Lawson, Oyster, Trebek, Flack, Gygax, Weatherall, Schubeck, the top 20. Just in behind there, creeping his way through, it is Nikola Nasic for P21. So, a difficult day in the office for some. Easy to pick up those drive-throughs, easy to get those jump starts, easy to have some contact that you might not have appreciated from some. So some people have really had it in the wars. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up our proceedings tonight. We've had 2 brilliant races and, of course, the qualifying session along the way. It's been an absolute blast. In a week's time, on the 30th of April, we go to the Red Bull Ring. Beyond that, Imola, Bathurst and Donington National to round off the 16th race season here for the Trippsix Motorsport Super Touring Championship. My name has been Zach Sweeney, and it's been a pleasure talking you through each and every second of racing action that comes our way. I will see you same time next week. Be here 10 to 8 p.m. in the UK. Translate that to whatever time zone you are around the world. You are not going to want to miss these touring cars take to the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. And as I said, it's been a pleasure talking you through tonight and the races to come. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, take care and a very warm goodbye.